Shai Gilgeous-Alexander isn't just scoring in the 2026 playoffs, he's doing something defenders literally cannot solve. And the scary part is most people don't even see it. Watch any of his recent possessions, not highlights, full possessions. The kind where nothing seems to happen at first. He dribbles, he pauses, he looks almost slow. Then suddenly the defender's off balance, the help is late, and the ball is already in the air. Bucket, and it keeps happening again and again. And again, this isn't a hot streak. This isn't just confidence. This is something deeper. Because here's the question nobody's really asking right now. Why are elite NBA defenders, guys built to stop this exact type of player, completely powerless against him? We're talking about defenders who have studied hours of film, teams that switch, hedge, blitz, drop, and still cannot figure him out. It doesn't matter if it's a long wing, a quick guard, or a full team scheme. The result looks the same. They're always just a step late. So what is actually happening here? What is Shai doing that makes the game look this easy? Because if you just say he's skilled, you're missing it. If you say he's smooth, you're still missing it. And if you think this is just another star having a great playoff run, you're about to miss the biggest shift happening in the NBA right now. There's a pattern behind all of this, a system, something that once you see it, you can't unsee it. But before we break that down, you need to understand what makes this run so different. On paper, nothing Shai does should be this unstoppable. The NBA has seen isolation scorers before. We've seen elite shot creators. We've seen players who can get to their spots no matter what. Luka does it. Jokic does it in his own way. Even guys like Kevin Durant have built entire careers on scoring over perfect defense. And yet what Shai is doing feels different because he's not overpowering defenders. He's not out jumping them. He's not even blowing by them with raw speed. If anything, he looks slower than most stars when he has the ball. And that's exactly what makes this so confusing. The modern NBA is designed to stop players like this. Defenses today are smarter, faster, more connected than ever. Teams load up early, they rotate quicker, they track tendencies down to the smallest detail. So in theory, a player who relies on isolation, mid-range scoring, and controlled drives should be easier to contain than ever before. But with Shai, the opposite is happening. He's not just surviving these defenses, he's bending them. Look at the numbers: high efficiency scoring, consistent foul pressure, low turnover rate. These are not just star numbers, these are system breaking numbers. And when you compare him to other superstars, the gap becomes even more interesting. Luka dominates with size and vision, Jokic controls everything with passing and timing, but Shai operates in a space that feels harder to define. He doesn't need the offense built entirely around him. He doesn't need to rush, he doesn't need to force anything. He just waits, and somehow that waiting is what destroys the defense. That's where things start to get uncomfortable for opposing teams, because you can't scheme against something you don't fully understand. And right now, most defenses don't understand what they're looking at. So here's the real question you should be asking. If the league is more advanced than ever, and if defenses are more prepared than ever, why does Shai look more in control than anyone else on the floor? If you're starting to see what's happening here, you're already ahead of most people watching these games. And if you want to see more breakdowns like this, the kind that actually shows you what's really happening beneath the surface, this is exactly where you want to stay locked in. Because what we're about to get into next is where things start to shift. And once you see it, every Shai possession is going to look completely different. The first thing Shai does is mess with time. Not speed, not strength, time. Watch closely the next time he isolates at the top of the key. Most players attack immediately, one dribble, maybe two, then they commit. The defender reacts, the help rotates, and the play unfolds exactly how the defense expects. Shai does the opposite. He pauses, and not just a normal pause. It's a calculated delay that stretches the possession just enough to break the defender's rhythm. You can actually see it happen. The defender shifts their weight, expecting the drive. Nothing happens, half a second passes, then another. Now the defender's thinking instead of reacting, and that's when it's already over, because the moment a defender has to think, they're late. There was a possession in the playoffs where Shai faced a long wing defender known for staying disciplined. He crossed half court, slowed everything down, almost walking into the set. No rush, no urgency, just control. The defender squared up, ready for the first move, but it never came. Shai hesitated, slight shoulder dip. Ball still alive, another pause. The defender leaned just a little, anticipating contact. That tiny shift changed everything. In the next instant, Shai exploded. Not with raw speed, but with perfect timing. One step, that's all it took. The angle was gone, the help was late, easy finish. And if you rewind that play, it doesn't look like anything special at first, but that's the trap. because what Shea is really doing is forcing defenders into a false sense of timing. He's stretching the moment until they commit too early or too late. Most players operate within the defense's rhythm. Shea breaks it. And once that rhythm is gone, the entire defensive structure starts to collapse. Rotations come a fraction of a second late. Closeouts are just slightly off. And in the NBA, that fraction is everything. You see it again in another possession, same setup. Defender stays patient this time, determined not to bite. So Shea waits longer. Now the defender is frozen. Not moving forward, not retreating, just stuck in between. That's the worst possible position because from there you can't react to anything. Shea takes one dribble, stops, defender hesitates again. Then Shea rises into a mid-range pull-up. Clean, no real contest, two different defenders, two different reactions. Same result, and that's what makes this so dangerous. It's not about beating a specific type of defense. It's about putting every defender into a state where they cannot trust their own timing. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because if this was just about slowing the game down, other players could replicate it. They don't. And the reason why leads to the second layer. Here's what nobody talks about. Shea doesn't beat defenders with speed. He beats them with angles they can't recover from. Every drive he makes is slightly off center. Every step is calculated to create a path that feels uncomfortable for the defender. Not straight line, not predictable, always shifting. Think about a boxer controlling distance. Not throwing wild punches, but positioning just right so the opponent can never land clean. That's what Shea is doing on the court. There was a play along the baseline where it looked like the defender had him cut off completely. Body in front, help defender ready, no clear lane. Most players would pick up the dribble. Shea didn't. He took one more step, slightly wider than expected. That small change forced the defender to turn their hips. And the moment those hips turn, you've lost. Now Shea had a narrow angle, not a clean path, but just enough space to extend and finish off the glass. No block, no real contest. It looked impossible until it wasn't. And that's the pattern. He's not creating huge separation. He's creating just enough angle, just enough space, just enough imbalance, and defenders hate that because you can't train for awkward. You can train for speed, you can train for strength, but angles like this happen in fractions, and once they're gone, they're gone. Now connect that back to the first layer. He slows the game down until you hesitate. Then he attacks at an angle you can't recover from. That's the system, not isolation scoring, not mid-range mastery, a full control of time and space combined. And once you see both together, everything changes. Every hesitation isn't random. Every step isn't just smooth. It's calculated, it's precise, it's repeatable, which is exactly why defenses keep failing to stop it. Now, here's where I'm curious. When you watch Shai now, do you see speed or do you see control? Because once you start noticing the angles, it's impossible to unsee them. And I want to know what stood out to you the most so far, because this next part is where it all gets confirmed in a way that's hard to argue with. Now look at the numbers, because at some point this stops being about how it looks and starts being about what it produces. Across this playoff run, Shai isn't just scoring. He's scoring efficiently, consistently, and under pressure. High usage, low turnovers, constant trips to the line. That combination alone is rare. But when you layer it with what we just talked about, it starts to make sense. Take a closer look at his shot profile. A huge portion of his points come from the mid-range and inside the arc. In today's NBA, that's supposed to be inefficient. That's the area defenses are willing to give up. And yet Shai turns it into one of the most reliable scoring zones on the floor. Why? Because those shots are not contested the way defenses expect. Go back to the angles, go back to the timing. By the time he rises into that pull-up, the defender is already recovering, not contesting. There's a difference. A late hand is not the same as real pressure, and that shows up in the data. Compare his efficiency to other stars. Luka can dominate with volume, Jokic can control entire defenses with passing, but Shai is threading the needle between both. He scores like a volume player while maintaining efficiency closer to elite shot selection. That balance is what breaks systems. Now look at the foul numbers. This is where things get even more uncomfortable for defenses. He's not just drawing fouls, he's dictating when they happen. That hesitation we talked about, that slight delay, forces defenders into bad positions. Reaching late, sliding across his body, trying to recover balance they already lost. And the moment they do that, the whistle is almost inevitable. It's not baiting in the traditional sense, it's positioning. He's putting defenders in situations where the only way to stop the play is to foul. That's control at another level. There was a stretch where he got to the line multiple times in a single quarter, Not because he was forcing contact, but because defenders were out of sync. Every drive looked calm, every finish looked controlled. And yet the defense kept collapsing into mistakes. Now add one more layer. Watch where Shai is looking before he attacks. It's not always the ball, it's not even always the rim. It's the defender's hips. That's the real tell. Because the hips reveal direction before anything else. Shoulders can fake, hands can react. But once the hips turn, the defender is committed. Shai reads that instantly. The moment those hips open, even slightly, he's gone. Not in a straight line, but into that exact angle we talked about earlier. The one that feels impossible to recover from. That's not reaction speed, that's anticipation. And it explains why everything looks so smooth. Because he's not reacting to the defense, he's predicting it. So now you have the full picture. He controls the timing, he creates the angle, he reads the commitment, and he punishes it before the defense can adjust. That's not just skill, that's a system. And when you combine all of that, you start to realize something a little unsettling for the rest of the league. This isn't something you fix overnight, because how do you guard a player who controls when you react, where you move, and how you recover? You don't. You try to contain it, you throw different looks. You hope he misses, but stopping it completely becomes a different problem entirely. And that's why this playoff run feels different. Because it doesn't feel streaky, it doesn't feel temporary. It feels repeatable, and if it's repeatable, then it's scalable, which brings us to the bigger picture. This isn't just about one player having a great postseason. This might be the beginning of a shift. If this style continues to work, if Shai keeps bending defenses like this, then teams are going to have to rethink how they defend isolation entirely. Not just against him, but against players who start copying this approach. And that's how the league changes, not all at once, but through one player forcing everyone else to adapt. Now think about where this is going. If Shai is already doing this at this level, in the highest pressure moments, what happens next season? What happens when OKC builds even more around the system? What happens when defenses are forced to pick between overcommitting or getting picked apart slowly? That's where the dynasty conversation starts to feel real. Not because of hype, not because of narrative, but because of a system that hasn't been solved yet. So now the question shifts, not can Shai dominate? We've already seen that. The real question is, how long can the league go before it finds an answer? And if it can't find one soon, then this isn't just a playoff run. This is the beginning of something much bigger. So if you want to see how this evolves, how defenses try to respond, and whether anyone can actually crack this code, make sure you're here for the next breakdown. Because the answer to that question might define the next era of the NBA.